Well, hello, and a very warm welcome along to Sportsbet TV, where this is Paul Alster with you as always, ahead of the weekend bulletin, where we're looking forward to some good racing in Britain on Saturday, the 13th of March, which is, of course, only 3 days before the start of the Cheltenham Festival. And just before we get to this weekend's racing, let me just say that we'll be offering bulletins and my um, approved selections for each of the 4 days. And it's going to be a marvellous 4 days at Cheltenham, despite, of course, the fact that there's going to be no uh, audience as such at the racecourse. But it is still the Olympics of National Hunt Racing. And our very first bulletin will be available on Sunday afternoon, the 14th of March. We're going up early with that one. And then for each of the subsequent 3 days, we'll be offering our tips about 24 hours before the first race of each of the final 3 days. So a lot to look forward to at Cheltenham. Remember to let everybody know about following our tips and bulletins. You can press the subscribe button just below this screen, and also the bell icon. That will keep you up to date with all our messages as we put them out. Now we have two selections for you for this weekend. We're keeping much of our powder dry, but first of all, a few words about last weekend, where we did pretty well, really. There were 4 selections, and 3 of them ran tremendously well. The first was Valadon, who at 10-1 led until the final fence. He was caught at Newbury, but finished second, and that was a nice, profitable selection for us. He ran really well, I thought, for Richard Hobson. The only disappointment was Born Survivor, who we recommended at 20-1. He went off at 14s. He was in touch 3 out, but he never threatened, eventually finishing 7th in the Great Wood Gold Cup. So that was a little bit of a disappointment. Then we had Night Edition at Kelso, a horse I gave a second chance to after he'd let us down at Newbury a few weeks earlier. We recommended him at 22-1, and he was back down to 10-1. And I really did think he was going to come and win the race, because he went after the shunter at the second last, where he made his only real mistake and lost some impetus. But he stayed on well all the way to the line. And I'm sure you saw it. And like me, you were shouting him on. He couldn't quite get there. He was beaten by a handicapped Good Thing, I think, caught a bit of a tartar. But that was a great effort from Night Edition. Question is, will he get into Cheltenham next week? Will his handicap mark be high enough? If it is, I may well be recommending him again. But a very profitable run, despite only finishing second. And then at Leopardstown on Sunday, my only recommendation, a recommended win, something I rarely do, was the Willie Mullins trained Live, Love, Laugh, 100-30. Well, he took up the running early under Paul Townend in a hot handicap chase. He was bowling along, jumping for fun. He made his only mistake at the final fence, but was still clear and onto the run-in. He traded as short as 1.06 before being caught in the last couple of strides by Minuchka, the pair finishing clear. I think we were really unlucky. I was absolutely convinced he was going to win the race until the last couple of strides, but no doubt about it, he was a horse who gave us a great run for our money. So it was a pretty good weekend last weekend, and hopefully this weekend will be even better. Now, just before I get to that, I very nearly forgot that I was asked to recap on the anti-post selections that I've given thus far in previous bulletins for Cheltenham, just to bring you up to date. Now, I've recommended 5, and it's a mixed bag, to be honest. Hador, who I recommended for the Triumph Hurdle, will not run. He's met with a setback. The Real Deal, who I really fancied for the Supreme Novices Hurdle, will not run. Of all things, he's running because the stable received infected feed, and they're all under a cloud, so none of the McNally horses will be running in the near future, which is a big shame. Now, the other 3, First Flow, I recommended for the Champion Chase some weeks ago at 14-1 each way, in the hope there'd be plenty of give in the ground. So far, it's looking as if the ground may be just a little faster than ideal, but I still think he's going to run very well in the Champion Chase, First Flow. Lisnagar Oscar, I recommended at 33-1 each way for the Stayers Hurdle next Thursday. He's now down to 12-1 and could very well go single figures, because Time Hill has just been declared a non-runner in the Stayers Hurdle because he's gone lame, unfortunately. Philip Hobbs' runner. But Lisnagar Oscar now down to 12 to 1 from the 33s we recommended you take. And the other one is Frodon in next Friday's Cheltenham Gold Cup. 14 to 1 we recommended him. He's still more or less that price. I'm convinced he's going to be single figures when the public gamble starts on him and Bryony Frost. So that is our anti-post book that we have. We'll be bringing you all our selections, of course, at Cheltenham day by day. Now then, on to the two selections for Saturday. And we go first to Wolverhampton to the 205 race, which is the listed Lady Wolfruna Stakes over 7 furlongs. This is always a pretty good race with some of the better horses coming out ahead of the start of the flat season on turf, which will not be too far away now at Doncaster. And they're forecasting Archie Watson's Highland Dress as favourite. Now, he's won twice over course and distance and only just missed out at at Chelmsford last time. But he should be thereabouts. He's officially rated 108, so he's a good horse. Then we've got Documenting, who's a real standard bearer for the small Kevin Frost yard. Really progressive handicapper who won over course and distance off 107 in October. And he was third to Highland Dress when he last ran, which was back in November. But would he be fit enough after quite a long layoff? Godolphin have a horse called Raib, who's been off the course for just over a year. Could be anything, but a long absence. And Lord of the Lodge for Carl Burke is respected, although he does have a few pounds to find. Now, 5 weeks ago, I recommended you a horse called Mum's Tipple at Lingfield over 6 furlongs, where he ran a really good race after a long absence and was beaten 11 3/4 in that particular event, despite 3 times, not once, twice, but 3 times being denied a run inside the last furlong and a half. Now, he was ridden that day by Ryan Moore, and Ryan Moore is on board again for trainer Richard Hannon. And I think it's significant that Ryan wants to take the ride again. And I suggest that Ryan has probably said to Richard Hannon that he thinks the horse is worth a try over the extra furlong. He was an outstanding 2-year-old over 6 furlongs. He won the sales race at York by a record margin and then eventually bombed out in the Group 1 at the end of the season where he went lame. As a 3-year-old, his only run beyond 6 furlongs was in the 2,000 guineas, where he failed to stay after running free. But after a quiet 3-year-old season, I'm expecting him to come bouncing back now he's been gelded. He's already shown he retains ability, and I think the 7 furlongs might just prove ideal. So, at the time of this recording on Friday lunchtime, Mum's Tipple in the Wolverhampton 205 is still available at 5 to 1 each way with the likes of Sky Bet, Bet Victor and Boyle Sports. And I suggest it's all but a bet to nothing. If he gets a place, you'll get your money back, and if he wins, your quid's in. So Mum's Tipple each way, 5 to 1, Wolverhampton 205 on Saturday. Now, just 20 minutes later, we have the Imperial Cup Handicap Hurdle. Now, this is at Sandown at 225. It's a tremendous 2-mile handicap. There are 15 runners. The going is good to soft. There was no renewal last year because of the COVID, but the previous year, a horse called Malaya won the race for Paul Nicholls, and Malaya is back to try and win essentially back-to-back renewals. The favourite is forecast, the Gary Moore trained Natural History, who was a runaway winner of a little race at Plumpton last time out, has been whacked up by £16 to 132. Hard to know if that's fair or not. We'll only find out really on Saturday, I suppose. But this is a much tougher race, and I think 3 to 1 is very, very skinny indeed. Leon Cavallo's a horse who ran well for us on the flat last season when we tipped him, and he's a horse who I very much respect for Pipe and Scudamore. And there's a horse called Highway 1 or 2. He's trained by Chris Gordon, who I think is also of some interest. Langer Dan is another one for Dan Skelton. But the horse I like here is called Diego Duchamil. Now, he is one of 3 trained by Paul Nicholls, and significantly, Harry Cobden rides. He's the stable jockey, and one suspects that he would have had the choice of which of the 3 to ride, the other 2 being the aforementioned Malaya, who won the race 2 years ago, and the good mare Miranda, who won a listed event last time out, but Cobden has chosen Diego de Charmille, and I think that could be a significant hint. This is a horse who, as a youngster, was a tremendous hurdler. Indeed, he won on his debut in Britain at the Cheltenham Festival. That was an extraordinary performance. He ran a series of very, very good races over hurdles before switching to fences, where he ran at a very high level. Indeed, 4 times he went up against the superb Altior over 2 miles, but of course never actually managed to lay a glove on him. And then this season, following some wind surgery, he has returned over hurdles and has shown that he retains a lot of ability, finishing second to Song for Someone in the Kingwell Hurdle, third to Silver Streak in October in a listed event, and then third to So Royal in the Grade 2 Elite Hurdle, before being outclassed really in the Grade 1 Christmas Hurdle behind Silver Streak once again. So here we have a horse who's been running in very, very good graded company, now returning to a handicap, dropping in the weights, and although he has 11 stone 11, which is a very high mark for a hot handicap hurdle, on what is expected to be pretty much decent ground, which suits him ideally, I think he's going to go very well. Now he's down to a mark of just 145. And so I suggest that at the odds on offer of 16 to 1 each way for 4 places, and that's a general offer, I think he's going to run really well, and I expect him to give a very good account of himself. And just as was the case with the horse that we had last week, Night Edition at Kelso, if a horse wins this race at Sandown on Saturday, the Imperial Cup, and goes on to win a race at the Cheltenham Festival next week, Connections get a £50,000 bonus, courtesy of bookmakers Paddy Power. So it could be that Paul Nicholls has been plotting this, and he thinks he can bag £50,000 for the De La Haye family that own Diego de Charmille by winning this race and then trying to double up at Cheltenham next week. It has been done 3 times in the past, although all 3 times have been horses trained by the now retired Martin Pipe. So Diego de Charmille, the Imperial Cup 225 race at Sandown is the second and final selection for this Saturday. As I say, we're keeping our powder dry for the Great Cheltenham Festival next week. My first bulletin will be early on Sunday afternoon, so do look out for that. It'll be rushing into your inbox, and remember to press the subscribe button to keep in touch with all our bulletins. We'll keep fingers crossed for our 2 runners to go really well on Saturday, and then I look forward to you joining me again on Sunday afternoon. But for now, from me, Paul Alster at Sportsbet TV, it's bye-bye and enjoy your weekend. Bye-bye for now.